Trump campaign. This testimony was forceful. But as you saw, it wasn't his job to develop evidence of collusion. It was to give intel. And he said as the time he left, he hadn't seen any proof of collusion. But the investigation must go on. Those are his words. Joining us is CNN counterterrorism analyst Phil Mudd. Phil Mudd, to those who do not want to believe there is any collusion, they say John Brennan just said it. There is no proof. They've been investigating this forever. There are leaks all over the place and no evidence of actual collusion. This is a hoax. The president's right. Your response?
Boy, Chris, it's painful that you're the first person I speak with in the morning, but let me give you a clear picture
when you laugh,
of the answer to this.
I know I encourage him because I think it's funny.
But when he turns it on you, then all of a sudden Mudd
me.
will only be on the show after
Never
this.
gonna happen.
Chris, let's watch this over the next day or two because Sean Spicer in the White House have consistently misportrayed what intelligence officials are saying. Let me give you a clear distinction between intelligence and investigations. The intel guys are going to get the intelligence. That is, for example, intercepts of Russian communications showing at most one half of the story and more than likely significantly less than one half. They do not have visibility, that is intel guys like the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, and the CIA Director, into the significant part of the investigation that's conducted by the FBI. Interviews of American citizens, looks into their travel, into their financial records. So, of course, the intel guys are going to say, I saw some smoke when Russian people talked about their interactions with the Americans, but there's no way you can look at one half of the conversation and draw a conclusion about collusion. One more quick comment. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I hear you. I understand exactly what you're saying, and of course you're right. But it ends up just being frustrating to people listening because it devolves into this debate over semantics, intel versus evidence. And in fact, it got a little heated with Congressman Trey Gowdy. So let me just play this for you, and then you can respond. Watch this.
Did you have evidence of a connection between the Trump campaign and Russian state actors?
As I said, Mr. Gowdy, I don't do evidence.
I appreciate that you don't do evidence, Director Brennan. You and I both know what the word evidence means. It's a really simple question. Did evidence exist of collusion, coordination, conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russian state actors at the time you learned of 2016 efforts?
I encountered and am aware of information and intelligence that revealed contacts and interactions between Russian officials and U.S. persons involved in the Trump campaign.
See, Phil, that's what's so frustrating. Did collusion exist? That's the burning question that everybody wants answered. And then Brennan says, well, I know of contacts and communication.
Well, Trey Gowdy ought to have his ass kicked. He knows the difference between intelligence and evidence. Let me tell you something, Allison. If you're an American citizen and the National Security Agency collects intelligence, that is, intercepts of Russians who report what you've said, do you think it's fair to go to a court and say that's evidence that you did something wrong? That's why the FBI is going to take a year or more to investigate this, because the American citizens involved in this have a right to have evidence presented in a court beyond a conversation that a Russian official reports. In my world, this distinction is black and white. There's a hard line. I know it's frustrating for the American people, but I hope they don't want evidence to be perceived as something that a Russian official says, and that's it. You can be convicted on that.
Okay, you win. You win.
He does. And I'll tell you what, we're seeing it this morning, even here. People are saying, well, look, Brennan said he saw no proof. He did not say that. He said, I don't know. And that's a huge distinction. And while it may be frustrating, a lot of things in life are frustrating, Phil Mudd, especially when they're complex. And if you cheapen them, wind up distorting what they actually are. But at the end of the day, what do you make of the suggestion that I think is a little bit more forceful? There have been so many leaks. Everything we've learned from leaks thus far, and yet nothing about any real collusion. Why?
Boy, I don't think there have been significant leaks related to investigation. Do we know a heck of a lot about FBI interviews of the American citizens involved in this? How much do we know about what they've said behind closed doors? Has anybody flipped? How much do we know in detail about financial transactions? As someone who's witnessed these investigations, I've seen embarrassing leaks, but they're not leaks that get at the heart of what the FBI is learning. That said, every time I see a door open here, whether it's General Flynn resigning, whether it's the FBI saying that they've opened an investigation, whether it's repeatedly intel officials, including the Director of National Intelligence and the CIA Director, saying that they saw substantial intelligence about contacts between Americans and the Russians, whether it's American officials saying that the President of the United States tried to get them to knock this down, every door that opens closes. And the walls around the president and the White House, I think, continue to get more and more tight. There's nothing that suggests there's no fire here to me.
Mudd, well argued. We will have to wait and see how Camerata digests that beatdown you just gave her on her own show.
Yes.
But always polite and doesn't make fun of moi.
He certainly didn't say what he said about Trey Gowdy about you. That's for sure.
Not publicly.
Thank you, Phil Mudd.
Thanks.
Thanks to you as well, our international viewers. For you, CNN Newsroom is next. For our U.S. viewers, we have new information about the investigation into that mansion.
Nunes revealing to the media that the communications of President Donald Trump's associates may have been picked up on surveillance by U.S. intelligence. Congressman Nunes told the president and the press before telling his fellow committee members. So is that congressional investigation now compromised? Let's bring in CNN political commentator and senior writer for The Federalist, Mary Catherine Ham, and Phil Mudd, CNN counterterrorism analyst and former CIA counterterrorism official. Mary Catherine, did Nunes compromise this investigation, and can that committee still do their job?
Yeah, I think that remains to be seen. I think it was an unconventional move, whether it was perhaps unconventional because he thought this was a big deal, which it seems like sort of a big deal if the allegations are true. I am interested, are we all flip-flopping again on whether leaks are cool and whether... It's like, it seems like we should have some questions about what this investigation was and why this information was distributed. I think the leak war is actually a really bad way to deal with this. I think the FBI investigation is the proper way to deal with it because it's actually their job to do counterintelligence investigations. But the fact that we've had 6 months of some investigation and perhaps some surveillance of some kind, and we've come up with not a conclusion, I think is not great for democracy. I'm concerned about both sides of the story, the Russia part and the leaking part.
So, Phil, how should Congressman Nunes have handled this if he had some special information that he thought should be shared with the president?
This is pretty straightforward. Let's step back for a moment and take names out of it. The legislative branch of this government in our system of checks and balances that protects all of us is having an investigation of the executive branch. We know the executive branch, in this case, some people affiliated with the White House, are under not just an investigation, but an FBI criminal investigation. The legislative branch should speak about that in silence. And in this case, we have somebody from that oversight committee going directly to the target of the investigation. Can I tell you what's going to happen next time an FBI person goes behind closed doors and talks to that committee? If I were that FBI person and I talked to dozens of closed committees, I'd say, how soon are you going to run down the street and reveal to the people we're investigating the secrets I just told you? This doesn't make sense to me, Allison.
So, Mary Catherine, I mean, there you have it. That Phil Mudd is, along with Senator John McCain and others, say it is compromised beyond repair. They cannot independently investigate this anymore when it appears that Nunes is on the side of the president.
Look, I think it's a problem for him. I also think that other things are problems. Like that, I don't understand why we can't have both of these conversations. And the fact that we are dismissing the idea that there were these discussions disseminated throughout the intelligence community. The other thing, there were two debunkings in the Comey discussion the other day. One of the wiretapping allegations, which he said there were no evidence for.
Right.
The other was of the media, where he said a lot of these leaks, and he also said something that suggested perhaps some of the leaks didn't even exist, were, quote, dead wrongs. There are two parts of this story, both Nunez's and the Russia.
So let's break it down
leaking.
for a second, just so that we understand this, because I don't know that Comey was incorrect. The wiretapping requires an actual FISA warrant and intentionally wiretapping Donald Trump's associates. We don't know that happened because what has been suggested with Nunes's revelation is that they were caught up in some sort of dragnet if you were listening in to foreign conversations. So we actually don't know who it was or what they were saying that was caught up. So given that, again, do you think that Nunes's committee should now just, recuse themselves or whatever the word is and hand this off to an independent commission? Because look, people say that he's acted as a stooge for the White House basically yesterday.
Yeah. Look, I think he has a problem. If you're investigating someone and you're also sending them back channel information, although he did go to the press first. But I think it's a problem.
Yeah. Phil.
He went to the press first. I mean, we have occasional humor in the national security business. Republicans are complaining about leaks. And when someone sees highly classified information, instead of discussing it in the committee, he runs to the press before talking to his partner on the committee. And you want to complain to me about leaks? 6:58 a.m.? You got to be kidding me. This is the funniest moment I'll have all day.
What time am I allowed to complain about leaks that are illegal?
7:01.
Okay, well, let's get there. We've got 2 minutes, and I will get back to you.
I can
about
wait.
That. Look, I think we have. Wait, hold on. Can I say we give the federal government incredible power to surveil so that they can do things responsibly, and with great power, as we know, comes great responsibility. And so when all of this is distributed in an improper manner, it does make people wonder, wait, what are these powers that they have, and are they using them well? And I want to believe that they are. So dealing with the leaking part is part of this discussion.
That's not a fact. You suggested this information was widely
disseminated. Hold on there,
disseminated.
Catherine. What's not a fact, Phil?
You suggest this information was A, widely distributed across government, not a fact. B, that it was distributed inappropriately, not a fact. It was leaked. That's illegal. That does not suggest it was collected illegally, distributed widely, or distributed inappropriately.
I don't think it was collected illegally, and I never alleged that, and Nunes never alleged that.
Excuse me?
But it is. Nunes did not allege that it was collected illegally. I did not allege that it was collected illegally. The question is, if it's collected legally and it's incidental, it can still be problematic, and we can still examine these powers and how the intelligence community deals with the incidental collection of surveillance on American citizens.
Okay, last word,
who are not
Phil.
under investigation.
Okay, last word, Phil.
Smokescreen. We have a conversation about the violation of the integrity of American elections by the Russians, an adversary, and what do people who don't want that investigation to proceed say? We got to discuss leaks that have existed since the beginning of this country. Excuse me, the Russians interfering in elections is a story. The leaks is a federal violation for which somebody should be thrown in jail.
Okay.
I agree with both of those things, and it's 7:01, so we can talk about the leaks some more when we get off air.
Bingo. Mary Catherine, Phil, thank you very much for the debate. And thanks to our international viewers for watching.